Welcome to History with Herodotus, where the past comes alive through the lens of meticulous research and poetic storytelling. Today, we embark on a fascinating journey to ancient Asia Minor to relive one of the most pivotal battles in history, the Battle of the Granicus, fought in the spring of 334 BC. This epic clash marked the beginning of Alexander the Great's conquest of Persia, a campaign that would forever alter the trajectory of human civilization. The Persian Empire, under the rule of Darius III, was the dominant power of the time, stretching from the Indus River in the east to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. Meanwhile, in Greece, a young and ambitious king named Alexander III of Macedon, later known as Alexander the Great, had been unified the city-states of Greece under his leadership. Alexander's father, Philip II of Macedon, had laid the groundwork for this unification through his military campaigns and strategic alliances. However, it was Alexander who would take the reins and propel Greece into a golden age of conquest and cultural achievements. With an insatiable thirst for adventure and a keen strategic mind, Alexander set his sights on the Persian Empire, driven by a desire to spread Greek culture, politics, and philosophy throughout the known world. In the spring of 334 BC, Alexander crossed the Hellespont, the narrow strait separating Europe from Asia, with an army of approximately 40,000 soldiers. This bold move was not merely an act of aggression, but a calculated maneuver to challenge Persian dominance in Asia Minor. The Persians, confident in their numerical superiority and the defensive advantages of their territory, were determined to repel the Greek invaders. As Alexander's army marched through Asia Minor, they encountered various satraps, or regional governors, who ruled on behalf of Darius III. One such satrap was Memnon of Rhodes, a skilled Greek mercenary commander in Persian service who would play a crucial role in the events leading up to the Battle of the Granicus. The Persian satraps, aware of Alexander's intentions, began to mobilize their forces to confront the Greek army. The Granicus River, which flowed through the rolling plains of northwest Asia Minor, would become the backdrop for this historic confrontation. The Greeks, with their phalanx formation and disciplined warfare, were about to collide with the Persians, who relied on their cavalry and archers. The outcome of this battle would not only determine the course of Alexander's campaign, but also shape the destiny of ancient civilizations. With the armies of Greece and Persia poised on the brink of conflict, the world held its breath, awaiting the outcome of the Battle of the Granicus. As the armies of Greece and Persia faced off on the banks of the Granicus River, the tension was palpable. The Persian satraps, led by Arsacides, had arrayed their forces in a defensive position, with their cavalry and archers deployed along the riverbank. Alexander, meanwhile, had divided his army into two wings, with the phalanx formation at the center and the companion cavalry on the flanks. On May 5, 334 BC, the battle commenced as Alexander led the charge across the Granicus River, his horsemen splashing through the icy waters as they made their way towards the Persian lines. The Persians, confident in their defensive position, unleashed a hail of arrows against the advancing Greeks, but Alexander's phalanx formation held firm, its tight shields forming an impenetrable wall that protected the soldiers from the deadly projectiles. As the Greeks approached the riverbank, they were met with a fierce counterattack by the Persian cavalry, led by Memnon of Rhodes. The Greek horsemen, however, were well-trained and well-disciplined, and they held their ground against the Persian onslaught. One of the most significant moments of the battle came when Alexander himself led a charge against the Persian lines, his companion cavalry following closely behind. As they clashed with the Persians, Alexander's horse was killed beneath him, but he quickly remounted and continued to fight, his bravery and leadership inspiring his troops to press on. The Persians, meanwhile, were beginning to falter, their defensive position weakening as the Greeks gained ground. As the battle raged on, the Greeks began to gain the upper hand, their phalanx formation pushing forward relentlessly against the Persian lines. The Persians, realizing that their position was untenable, began to retreat, but it was too late. The Greeks had already broken through their defenses, and they were now pouring across the river in pursuit of the fleeing Persians. Arsacides, the Persian satrap, was killed in the battle, along with many other high-ranking officers, while Memnon of Rhodes managed to escape, but his army was largely destroyed. The Battle of the Granicus was a decisive victory for Alexander and the Greeks, one that would have far-reaching consequences for the ancient world. As news of the battle spread, cities and kingdoms throughout Asia Minor began to defect from the Persian Empire, recognizing Alexander as their new ruler. The battle itself had been fierce and intense, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. But in the end, it was the Greeks who emerged victorious, their superior tactics and training proving too much for the Persians to handle. In the aftermath of the battle, Alexander took steps to consolidate his gains, establishing a new administration in the conquered territories and rewarding his soldiers for their bravery. He also took care to honor the dead, burying them with full military honors and erecting a monument to commemorate their sacrifice. As Alexander's army celebrated their victory at the Granicus, they knew that their campaign was far from over. The Persian Empire still stretched out before them, a vast and complex network of provinces and satrapies that would need to be conquered one by one. In the months and years that followed, Alexander's army would go on to conquer a vast swath of territory, from the coast of Asia Minor to the distant provinces of Bactria and Sogdiana. They would face countless challenges and dangers along the way, from treacherous mountain passes to fierce battles against determined enemies. But through it all, they would remain a formidable and cohesive force, driven by their loyalty to Alexander and their determination to achieve greatness. The Battle of the Granicus itself would go down in history as a pivotal moment in the conquest of Persia, a testament to the bravery and tactical genius of Alexander and his soldiers. As the ancient historian Arrian would later write, the battle was fierce and bloody, but in the end, the Macedonians emerged victorious, their phalanx formation proving too strong for the Persian cavalry to break. This victory would set the tone for the rest of the campaign, demonstrating the superiority of the Macedonian army and striking fear into the hearts of their enemies. Today, the Battle of the Granicus is remembered as a landmark event in the history of warfare, a clash of titans that would shape the course of Western civilization. It is studied by military historians and strategists around the world, who seek to learn from the tactics and techniques employed by Alexander and his soldiers. And it continues to inspire awe and wonder, a testament to the power and majesty of ancient warfare. The spread of Greek culture and language throughout the ancient world, the establishment of new cities and kingdoms, and the creation of a vast and complex network of trade routes and diplomatic relationships. All of these were made possible by the conquests of Alexander and his army. Their bravery, loyalty, and sacrifice would pave the way for one of the greatest empires in human history, an empire that would leave behind a lasting legacy of culture, learning, and achievement. As Alexander himself once said, "I would rather live a short life of glory than a long one of obscurity." The Battle of the Granicus would ensure that his name and the names of his soldiers would be remembered for all eternity. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, remember that, to understand the present, we must first understand the past.